everyone, it's Pamela. I'm back home, but right now I'm in California's Central Coast. I come here every summer, and on my channel I have already vlogged what I do here, and minus the masks, I basically do the same thing every single time, so I'm not going to be showing that part again. But I also really wanted to show you Hearst Castle, but unfortunately the last time I attempted to do so, Hearst Castle was closed. It has been closed the entire pandemic, but now for the first time in over 2 years, it is finally open. So I'm really excited to show you. Yes, America also has castles, not just in Europe. America má také hrady. So I of course recommend going on the official tours where they will tell you all the details about Mr. William Randolph Hearst and his castle, but I'm going to give you a bit of an overview right now. So his father, George, found success in mining, and actually later in life he became a US Senator, but anyways, he was very savvy in mining, and he used his acquired wealth to purchase the land here at San Simeon. I believe he originally purchased around 40,000 acres of land. They used this as a family retreat, so young William used to camp here often with his family, and at the time they referred to it as Camp Hill. But eventually, after William inherited this property, he of course ended up building this Hearst Castle, and he greatly expanded the land to over 250,000 acres at its peak, and then he called it the Enchanted Hill. Backing up a little bit, when William was just 10 years old, he was fortunate enough and had the opportunity to go on this big trip with his mother. They toured all over Europe, and this was actually an important time in William's life because he was so inspired by all the castles and architecture and history. This is something that he always had in the back of his mind. He always wanted to take some of that back with him and recreate it for himself. As William grew up, he attended Harvard for some time, and he did pretty well in journalism, and around the same time his father came to acquire the San Francisco Examiner, and he really took an interest to his father's newspaper. William really wanted to acquire it, and because he was so ambitious and determined, he eventually did do that. And he not only took over his father's newspaper, but over the next decade he ended up owning multiple newspapers. He actually owned over 24 newspapers at one point, so that meant that 1 in 4 Americans got their news from a Hearst paper. In his life, William even became a member of Congress in the US House of Representatives, and in his media career, he had a huge influence on journalism. Before, news used to be a bit dry, but he was really into sensationalism, and that is how we run things today. Everything needs to be a catchy headline, people use clickbait, and yeah, then he ventured out into radio broadcasting, and he was a major producer of movie newsreels, and he created the comic strip syndication business, and he was even an early pioneer in television. So basically he was a huge media tycoon. He had amazing business endeavors, but a bit of his downfall was his love of art collecting. It got a little bit out of hand. Over the years, he amassed a huge collection of authentic art pieces from all over the world, and you will see it later in this video all throughout the castle. It's quite impressive. What finally brought William Hearst's vision to life was when he finally met the brilliant architect Julia Morgan, and together, over the course of 28 years, they constructed this Hearst Castle. And during this time, this was his primary residence. He worked tirelessly, but he really did work hard, play hard, because he also liked to throw lavish parties. So anybody who was anybody at the time would be invited to stay here as special guests, whether they were important figures in politics, Hollywood, or sports. So some notable guests included Charlie Chaplin, Clark Gable, Winston Churchill, and Calvin Coolidge. Mr. William Randolph Hearst lived a full life. He passed away in 1951 at the age of 88, and technically Hearst Castle was never fully completed. There are still surviving members of the Hearst family, but they didn't want to touch it. They intentionally wanted to leave it the way William left it because it was his vision. And now the castle is public. It is part of the California State Park system, so that we can all view it, enjoy it, learn about it, and be inspired. It's hard to see everything all at once because I believe that in the main building alone there are 115 rooms, not counting all of the guest rooms.
Cottages and village behind us. That's Casa del Monte.
So I took the upper suites tour, which is what you will see in this video. And yes, it's crazy. At one point, Mr. William Hearst, he even owned the world's largest privately owned zoo here on the property. But again, his love of art collecting almost bankrupted him, so he had to get rid of the animals, and most were donated to local zoos. I think some ended up at the San Diego Zoo, and some of the animals were just set free. And to this day, you can still see the descendants of the zebras just roaming and grazing freely amongst the cattle. It's funny because there are also a lot of wineries in this area, so if you first go wine tasting and then you see some zebras just roaming around freely, then you might think that you're just seeing things, but they really are there. And some fun facts: Lady Gaga filmed her music video GUI here at Hearst Castle, and you actually can swim in the pools here, but it costs about $1,000, and I'm not exactly sure for how long or what the specific terms are. But yeah, let's go finally see the castle.